Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Intentional Productivity Tips. I am Megan. I am your very favorite strategic productivity partner, and I want to thank you for joining me today so we could talk about productivity, which, as you know, is one of my very favorite things to talk about. So I want to thank you for taking this time. I want to thank you for joining me on USA Global TV and Radio's YouTube channel, where please remember to take a moment, like, subscribe, and even be notified when new episodes drop. Also, check out USA Global TV and Radio's new app. Got some amazing different programs and information so that you can become your best self. Speaking of becoming your best self, today I am excited as always to talk to you about productivity. Last episode, we talked a little bit about intentional productivity. And why is it that I always talk about intentional productivity? If you'll remember, and if you haven't had a chance, go back and take a look. We talked about why it's important to be intentional with your productivity tips, with your productivity habits, processes, automation, systems, and mindset. So today what we're going to do, and when you think about it, all of those are important, right? Your productivity systems, your habits, your automations, your processes, and your mindset all come together when we're working with productivity so you can get what you need to have done and be your best self and enjoy the life that you've worked hard. So today we're specifically going to look at a productive mind. Let me share our presentation here. So today we are going to specifically talk about a productive mind. Again, this goes really well with our why do we talk about intentional productivity all the time? Because when you think about it, it's not just about our intentionality, it's about our mind. I want to ask you a question as we get started. Think of a time, and I'm sorry to ask you to think about this kind of time because it's a challenging time. Think of a time when maybe you are frustrated or stressed or a little bit overwhelmed. How did that impact your productivity? One of the things we know is that our minds impact our productivity. We don't always allow for it, so that's why we're going to talk about it today. Again, part of the reason we're looking at this is because, again, the name of our show, Intentional Productivity Tips. What does intentional productivity mean? I've had clients ask me many times, why are you so into this intentional productivity thing? And I say, because it helps us all be better. It helps us to enjoy our productivity. It helps us to be smoother with what we get done. So again, our intentional productivity includes our systems, habits, processes, automations, and mindset. Why are we specifically pulling out the mind today? So we're going to look at 4 things when we're preparing our mind for intentional productivity. And why are we pulling it out? Because again, as I just asked you, our mind does directly impact our productivity. If we're in a good mood, it impacts our productivity. If we're in a meh mood, it impacts our productivity. If we're in a bad mood, it impacts our productivity. So on today's episode, we're going to talk about a productive mind, and we're going to talk about from overwhelmed to intentional productivity. We're going to see the impact of scattered versus structured energy when our productivity. We're going to talk about introducing the mind framework, and then why a mind framework makes a difference. Prepare your mind, align your actions, and save energy. Don't we all want to do that? And then we're also going to connect our mind systems and action, turn clarity into practical, intentional productivity. Because when we think about it, the goal of our mindset is from clarity, focused, and flow, right? We want our mindset when it comes to productivity to have clarity, to have focus, and to have flow. So let's look a little bit about that today. And what I want to ask ourselves, and what I first want to start with, is why a productive mind framework? Why do we need to think about that? Intentional productivity is about preparing your mind, aligning your habits, systems, processes, mindset, and automation so you can do your best. Question for you. When was the last time that you felt your productivity was working for you and you were really soaring? You were in a real good flow. What was it about that experience? What was it about that time? What was it about that scenario? Let's look at that for just a moment. Let's look just a little bit about productivity scenarios and how they can impact our mind. We're going to look at two productivity scenarios right now. We're going to look at a scattered mind versus a structured mind, right? So our goal here is go from overwhelmed to intentional. We want to see the impact of scattered or structured energy. The question, here's the best part. There's no wrong answer. It's just finding what works best for you. There's times when I've talked with clients. I had a client that I was working with a couple of years ago, and we were talking about his mindset, how he focused on productivity. And I was like, are you best when things are scattered or when they're structured? And he had a little hard time with it. So this is what we did with him. So I'm going to walk through two scenarios with you, and I want you to decide. I'm going to describe two productivity scenarios. And I would like for you to decide for me, how do you feel about that? How does it make you feel? Does it make you raise an eyebrow? How does it make you feel? So we're going to talk about two productivity situations. The first productivity situation, if you had a situation where you needed to get things done, you were sitting down to work, would you like your to-do list to just be a complete list of tasks in any order? So for example, today you need to locate your calendar, you need to open your inbox, and you need to filter out unread emails. You need to write down 3 things you need to do today. You need to find last week's notes. You need to identify one habit you want to improve. You want to write down one work goal for the month. You want to find your favorite pen. You want to look for a file you used last week, and you want to jot down an appointment for a memo that you forgot. When I am reading all of those situations and I am reading all of those productivity and things to do, how did you respond? Are you a type of person where you're like, great, I'm just going to get in and I'm going to start to do it, right? That means that you like it when you're able to organize your things, right? So there is one way. Do you like it like that? Or do you prefer a structured mindset, right? So would you prefer a scenario where, using a framework, I start by saying, here's the tasks that you've grouped together. Here's a prioritize. Here's how they are prioritized. Here's how you're going to set a plan. Let's complete those tasks intentionally. So if I give you a list of tasks, and again, it's got them grouped and prioritized in a plan, and you're going to complete your tasks intentionally. So it's a little bit more of a structured mindset. How does that make you feel? Does that make you feel, oh, I've got things a bit more organized? When we think about our productivity in our mind, right, there's many situations we could go in, but if we specifically talk about two productivity scenarios, one where we're like, I just want to plow through everything, I'm just going to list it all and get it done, and that's going to be how I'm able to do it. Hey, if that's your jam and you can do that, go for it. That's how your mind works. But if that system made you feel, a little gurgly or a little stressed, and when I read the structured option, that's another way, right? These are all giving us clues and insights into what and how we want to operate our day. One of the reasons I like reading these is because you have a physical and visceral response, and we can learn from those physical and visceral responses. So one of our goals when we're talking about productivity and our productive mind, it's again saying, okay, what is it that our mindset need to be for us to be productive? So let's look at that right now. Let's look a little bit about our productive mind framework, right? What is the framework we can use for our mind? Before we dive into tasks, we need to prepare our mind. The mind framework helps us to do that intentionally. So there are 4 parts included in a mind framework. It is our mindfulness, it's our intention, it's our navigating obstacles, and it's our daily reflection. When we think about how to prepare our mind, one day I was talking with a client and I was talking to him about, let's talk about your productive mind. And he thought I was talking about meditation and mindfulness, which absolutely can be part of it. Doesn't have to be. But so he was like, okay. And he just sat and he closed his eyes. And I was like, okay, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm preparing my mind. And then he sat there for a minute and he's like, my mind isn't doing anything. And I was like, absolutely. Our minds aren't just going to do it. Our minds aren't just going to have structure unless we put it to it. So that's when he and I started talking a little bit, and that's how started coming with a productive mind. And actually, what is that, rather than just closing our eyes and thinking about it? But that can be helpful too. So we know it again. It is our mindfulness, our intention, our navigating obstacles, and our daily reflection. So let's look a little bit at each of these. So we're going to look at each of these. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to look at an actionable step and how we can connect each to our intentional productivity. So when we think about it, our productive mind starts with our mindfulness. It means to be present with our productivity. Mindfulness isn't just meditation. It's awareness of how you interact with your systems, habits, and processes. Are your tools and routines serving you, or are you going through the motions? When we think about our productive mind, we want to, again, think, what do I need and how can I best be here? How can I be present to do what I'm focused on? We know that in this world, there are a lot of distractions and things coming at us. Productivity is knowing how are we able to organize and get done what we need to, right? What are the tools? And so we're thinking about mindfulness is the best place to start with our productivity. How do we do it? An action step. Start your day with 5 minutes of deep breathing or meditation. Right? One way to start your day and to start your productivity in the habit of mindfulness is to actually sit down each day and just kind of sit in quiet. Again, I like to do this. I call it meditation. People call it different things. Sometimes people call it focusing. Sometimes people call it calming the mind. But one of my recommendations is, before you get started in the day, is to sit down with your mind and, again, identify, what is it that you're trying to do today? Set an intention. What is it that you need to accomplish today? And again, how is it that you want to feel, right? Do we want to feel that scattered, or do we want to feel structured? How do we connect our mindfulness to our intentional productivity? Mindfulness is the foundation. I want you to think about it as this way. Mindfulness truly is the foundation. When you're aware, you're consciously choosing what works for you, not just what's a default or convenient. When it comes to productivity, it's so important for us to give ourselves permission to say, this works for me. It's not just about convenience, but it's about what works. What is one area in your life where you feel autopilot taking over? Is there something that you do repetitive? Is there a way that you can start to include mindfulness to this, right? So productivity starts with our mind and our mindfulness. Next, we want to look at intention. We want to align our actions with our purpose. When we think about it, every task should serve a bigger picture or goal or value. Doing tasks mindlessly is not intentional productivity. Now, sometimes when we're doing things, for example, I've had a client who he's like, I'm scrolling through my emails. Now, does that feel like he's doing it mindfully? Maybe yes, maybe no. But the fact that he's doing it and he has a time set aside daily is his mind saying, I know I'm going to be prepared. I know I am going to get my communications in, right? So we want to look at our intention. Way back when I worked in corporate America, when I worked in employment services, I had a coworker who was the best at this. So before every client he met with, because we met with clients, right? He was a caseworker. So before he met with every client, he would take out their file. It was back when we had paper files. He would take out their file. He would look at what they were needing to do, and he would just close his eyes and breathe for a few minutes. And he would just say, okay, this is what this time is. May we both be present for it. And I will tell you, at first, and sometimes people would be like, oh, there he goes doing his thing. But there's something about that. When you think about before you start an action, before you start a call or appointment, to be mindful and to say, what is the intention? What are the actions and the purpose? I really, really like that he did that. And it's something that I've incorporated and I recommend to you, especially if you're going to do something big. Maybe you're going to be taping an intentional productivity tips show, right? Sit down, identify, breathe for a minute, kind of connect with it. Why am I doing this? Now, again, we know there are sometimes some actions that it doesn't feel like are aligning to the bigger purpose, but they are. Again, checking emails, checking voicemail. Sometimes that seems very transactional, but in the bigger picture, it's process, whether it's being responsiveness or building relationships, right? So some actionable steps. Again, before starting your task, ask yourself, why am I doing this? Does this align with my goals or values? How is this making me feel? It is important to connect this with our intentional productivity because clear intentions give direction to your habits and systems. Just like a path, it gives us our purpose as our guide. So it's super important to think about our intention, right? So we've gone through our mindfulness, our intention. We have 2 steps left for the mind, a productive mind framework. So next, we're going to talk about navigating obstacles. We want to focus on what matters. Now, the tip is we know distractions, interruptions, and procrastinations are inevitable. Intentional productivity equips you to navigate them without derailing your progress, right? We know if we work with people, we're going to get calls. If we work with things are going to happen. We know that there's very few times when we're able to just sit through a day and it's like there will be no interruptions or there's not going to be any distractions. One of the things that's important for us to do is to prepare for them, to know that obstacles are going to happen. Again, the more prepared I am mentally, I am okay with obstacles. I will tell you, working with people, I have learned how there are going to be plenty of obstacles that come up, right? So it's important for us to identify what are our top distractions. Is it social media? Is it a potential potential communication for people? Do you live somewhere where the electricity goes out all the time and you need to be prepared for that? It's about setting boundaries. It's also about being prepared. Note, there are some of us in this life who are really, really good at preparing for and navigating obstacles. So we think about them even when they're not even going to happen. So it's important for us to be realistic with navigating obstacles. It's important for us to not go overboard, or when we are, to be prepared and be like, okay, is that really going to happen? True story. When I worked in San Diego County, we did have an anthrax issue. So I had to race from downtown San Diego to Oceanside for an anthrax threat. Fortunately, there was no anthrax. But when I was driving from San Diego to Oceanside that day, I was like, this is new. Fortunately, in my modern day work, professional life, anthrax hopefully isn't, and thankfully isn't, right? But again, it's thinking about, is this something that could happen or is this a one-off? It's important for us to identify. It's important for us to set boundaries. It's important for us to not go overboard. When we're thinking about obstacles, they are part of the journey. It is going to happen. So our intentional productivity and our productive mind, it's important to realize that we need to be prepared and that it's going to happen. And it's okay. It's fine when obstacles happen. I just said that. It's true. They happen and it's okay. So our third step is navigating obstacles for our productive mind. And then the fourth step is our daily reflection. It is so important to assess, adjust, and evolve. Reflection turns into learning, and productivity isn't just about doing, it's about understanding what works and improving. So it is so important when we think about our daily reflection and our daily productivity, we do need to identify what works, what do we like, what didn't work. And a lot of times I'll go back to feeling. There are times when I'm doing things and I'm like, I don't like how this feels. Well, great. That's the best piece of news right there. I don't like how this feels, so I need to make a change. What am I going to do to make that change? So that's why we're talking about a productive mind. So when we're looking at our daily reflection, we can start to ask ourselves. One of the things you could do, keep a journal or a planner or even make notes. One of the things I have in my Google Calendar is I have my yellow is notes to me from me that I add to my calendar so that I know what's going on. Actionable steps. Ask yourself, what went well today? Did I like how this feel? Did I not like how this feel? And what do I need to change? Use these insights. They're powerful for you. When we think about it, connecting our daily reflection to our intentional productivity, it's dynamic. Again, productivity is a process. It's not transactional. We're not one and done. We're one and done with the task. We're not one and done with productivity. So we need to identify and start to think about how it is a process. So one of the things that we have been looking at is how can we connect our mind, systems, and action? So we just talked about 4 steps for our mind framework: our mindfulness, our intentional, our navigating obstacles, and our daily reflection. Productivity isn't just tools or systems. It's your mind, habits, processes, automations. It's all of it working together. When your mind is prepared, every action is purposeful. You'll be able to get more done. So that's why we've been talking today about connecting your mind and looking at what that mind framework is. Again, as we talk about, and people say to me again, why intentional productivity? Because I believe our intentional productivity is our systems, habits, processes, automations, and mindset. So today we have looked at how to equip you with the mind framework. One of the things we know is that the mind framework and our systems, habits, processes, and automations do go together. It's about connecting them and being intentional to do that. So my goal for you today has been that you have thought about your productivity in your mind in maybe a way you haven't before. Maybe it's something that you thought, maybe that makes sense. Or maybe you're thinking, she's crazy. That doesn't make sense at all. And to that, I say bravo too, because at least you're thinking about it and you're finding what works for you. And that's the most important thing. So today we have talked about our productive mind, which again connects with intentional productivity. So what next? What I would like for you to do is to put your productive mind into action. Take this framework, right? So when it becomes mindful, when it comes to mindfulness, easy for me to say, when it comes to mindfulness, pause, observe. How are things going? Do I like this? Do I not like this? Pause and observe in your own productivity. When you're starting to feel anxious, maybe, what is it? Is it because I have back-to-back meetings too much and I don't have time to prepare? Identify when you've got that. See what it's about. Second, act with intention. We know our tasks and our actions do connect with something that has a bigger purpose or a project or a task. And so we want to be intentional about doing it. And then we also want to think about navigating obstacles. And we know that we can solve one obstacle, right? If an obstacle comes up, we can solve it. It just takes being intentional about it and looking at the big picture. And then again, from your daily reflection, I'm going to say, reflect. And also I would encourage you this week, celebrate a win. Celebrate a win, something that you accomplished. Maybe you didn't expect to, maybe you didn't think you would. Maybe you're just glad you finished it. Maybe you're glad you checked it off your list. But I would say with your productive mind, take time to celebrate and to look at what you're doing. When you think about it, productivity is a huge topic. The art and the heart of productivity is when we're able to say, what are we going to do with it? How can we improve? How can we take control of our lives? And so that's why I wanted to talk a little bit about what is intentional productivity and the productivity mind framework. I do hope that it has been helpful. And I would say, I encourage you over the next week, over the next day, when you're working, when you're doing things, identify, when do you like what's going on? And identify when you don't like what's happening or you don't like your feeling. And pay attention to that, because the mindfulness, your intention, you're navigating your obstacles, and your daily reflection is going to help you to take control of your productivity, and so that it's going in a positive path that you want. I am Megan. I am your very favorite strategic productivity partner, and I want to thank you for joining me today to talk about the mind framework. I really do hope that it helps, and I hope that you're able to make it a productive week. If you ever want to reach out to me, I am on Instagram at Intentional Productivity Tips. You can also email me at megan@indelible.global or check out our website, indelible.global as well. You will find my show, Intentional Productivity Tips, here every Thursday afternoon. Not sure where Tuesday came from. Every Thursday afternoon, Thursdays at 2 p.m. Pacific. I will be back next Thursday with another episode of Intentional Productivity Tips. Here is my challenge to you, and here's my request. This week, think about it. What do you want to accomplish? How do you want to feel? What effort and energy are you going to place into doing that? And with that, I will say, have a productive week, make it a great week, and have fun. And now we have a word from our sponsors.
Get ready to wear the brand that's changing the world of media. Introducing the official USA Global TV and Radio online store. From our TV show hosts to our incredible global guests, you asked, we delivered. Rep your appearance with pride. Whether you've been on air, hosted a show, or tuned in, we have something just for you. Visit us at usaglobaltvradioshoп.myspreadshop.com and start shopping today. Check back frequently. We're dropping fresh new designs all the time. Showcase your role in our global community. These designs celebrate your voice, your story, your presence. It's more than just merchandise. It's a movement of hope, inspiration, education, and elevated listening. Head to usaglobaltvradioshoп.myspreadshop.com. Your spotlight awaits. USA Global TV and Radio. Elevate your style. Elevate the world.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/usaglobaltv. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.